Hello there, dear viewer. Today's video is going to be all about Indicator Blu-rays because I have the October releases and their September releases to give you my quick review and recommendations on. And by sheer coincidence, the Indicator flash sale has just begun over on Indicator's website, running from today to next Monday, the 4th of November. And in that sale, you can get all sorts of limited edition titles, box sets, all at reduced prices. And they have a great deal, 3 for £15 on a ton of standard edition titles and some limited editions as well. So if you're going to be picking up any of these new releases, it's well worth checking out what is in the sale as well. I'm going to begin talking about the October titles because we are just a few days away from Halloween, and I think these two box sets are perfect viewings if you want to get in the kind of spooky mood for Halloween. The first one that gets my highest recommendation is El Vampiro, Two Blood-Sucking Tales from Mexico. These are two vampire movies from Mexico, as the title would suggest. And these were complete discoveries for me. I had never heard about these films before Indicator announced them, and I was just absolutely blown away. These two films are from 1957 and 1958. They feature the same cast pretty much across both films. And these are vampire stories that are more in the kind of spirit of the old Universal monster movies. But of course there are differences due to the setting of Mexico. There's a focus on characters and the familial aspect, the relationships between these characters. But there are some elements of incredible horror, particularly if you love the gothic style of horror. And I mentioned Universal monsters because these films really did remind me of the 30s and 40s Universal works. Even though these were decades later, they feel like they're in that sort of vein. So if you like that kind of stuff, the classic Hollywood horror, I think these films would be right up your street. So for both The Vampire and The Vampire's Coffin, you get the English language tracks, you get the Spanish language tracks, and there's a whole host of special features across these two discs. It would take me a few minutes to read out exactly all that you get on here, so I'm not going to linger on it, but do go and check out Indicator's website if you want to know more, or feel free to just leave a comment on this video if you have any questions at all, and I'd be happy to answer them. Let me just show you a bit what you get inside this fantastic case. I love the artwork on Indicator box sets. They always do it perfectly because they don't put any logos on the front artwork. They always have the usual bit of card with all of the limited edition stuff and the ratings logos, etc. So this is a real display piece. If you want to have this on a shelf, on a little stand just like this, I think it looks fantastic. But this isn't just a display piece. Let me show you what you get inside. So we've got the first film, El Vampiro, in its own little case like this, a digipack style. And then you've also got the sequel, The Vampire's Coffin, in its own one as well. But as well as that, you get a fantastic booklet. Indicator always do the best booklets, in my opinion. And inside there's a variety of writings. There are some archival ones from the 1990s, as well as some new 2024 pieces. So it's a really substantial book, and I think it's just perfect to complement the two films. So that's El Vampiro, Two Blood-Sucking Tales from Mexico. I highly recommend it if you like gothic horror, the old Universal monster stuff. If you like the films of Mario Bava, for example, there's some stuff in here that really reminded me of Black Sunday. In particular, there is a funeral sequence in the first film that just really dripped with atmosphere and evoked that kind of black and white Mario Bava stuff. So this one gets my highest recommendation. The second title for October is the Colombia Horror box set. This box set compiles 6 feature films from the Columbia Vault, which they're all kind of horror themed. Some of these films are not quite, horror, but they all have kind of horror tropes and aspects that you would kind of lump them in with horror movies. The 6 films that you get here are all from the 1930s and the 1940s. All of them are B pictures, so they don't really have any, A-list Hollywood stars from the time, and they were kind of created to run alongside bigger pictures as double bills in cinemas, because at the time Columbia really did focus on making B pictures because that's where they were making most of their money. I think it was something like 80% of their film productions were B movies. Now, when someone says B movie today, you usually think it's a lesser film and it has no merit and it's just kind of throwaway. And I don't believe that's true of the B movies of this period, because a lot of the filmmakers working on these B pictures were filmmakers that would go on to do stuff in bigger films. But what I love the most about the B pictures made by Colombia during this period is that they all had to be quite short in runtime because they would have to follow another film. So all of the films in this set are about 60 minutes long, which is great because sometimes we don't have the time to watch a full film. And over the past week or so, I've just been watching these and just putting them on and watching them again with the audio commentaries. Because they are short films, I'm able to kind of spend more time rewatching them. So maybe I've blabbered on too much. Let me show you what you actually get in this set. So you get the 6 films and they are across 3 discs. So you're getting 2 films per disc, and these 6 films are across 3 spine numbers within Indicator's own collection. So the first one that you get has Behind the Mask and Black Moon on one disc in the digipack. Behind the Mask is a really interesting Jack Holt film, which also has Boris Karloff in a great role. And this one kind of skirts the line between kind of film noir and crime film and also horror film, because there is some kind of very typical horror tropes in here, as well as having these guys who are trying to, get involved with this crime. I'm really not explaining that well, but do go and look this one up if it sounds like your kind of thing. The second film in this one is Black Moon, and Black Moon was the only film that I had seen before out of all of these films. And I have to say that Black Moon, I think, has a lot of problems. It's a film that I don't really like because it's dealing with the subject of voodoo and these people going into this different culture. And to be honest with you, there's quite a lot of racist things in this picture by today's standards. Voodoo and kind of the exotic unknown was something that Hollywood was kind of capitalizing on during this period. And I think if you want to look for films that kind of tackle that subject matter in a better way, you would look at something like Jacques Tourneur's I Walked with a Zombie, or decades later there was Night of the Eagle, which is a great film. However, I must say that in terms of historical appreciation of what Colombia was doing, I think it fits perfectly in this set. And even though it's a film I don't like, I think it's one that should be preserved because, again, from a historical perspective, it's great to see what the attitudes were like to this kind of film at the time. In the next one, you get Airhawks and Island of Doomed Men. And Airhawks is a film that you would look at and you wouldn't think is really a horror film. And it's not really, although it does have a mad scientist kind of character. And there are certainly horror elements here. So I think it's one that does deserve its place here. And it was great to see Ralph Bellamy. I always like watching Ralph Bellamy. Island of Doomed Men was a great one with Peter Lorre. And as we know, Peter Lorre kind of got a bit shoehorned and typecast in a lot of films during the period. But he is so good when he appears. And Island of Doomed Men would be one of my favourites from this box set. By the way, there are audio commentaries on all of the films in this set, and there's a particularly great one on Island of Doomed Men. Rounding out the set, you get Cry of the Werewolf, and inside there is also The Soul of a Monster. And I particularly really enjoyed Cry of the Werewolf because it's a werewolf movie that when it begins, you kind of don't know if there are supernatural things going on or if it is just purely very exceptional natural things happening. And I think that's great because it does kind of ground itself before exploring some more of the werewolf aspects and this kind of society, this group of people who have this historical culture around werewolves, and this woman, is she a werewolf, is she not a werewolf? So there's a lot of very interesting things going on in this one. And again, to round out the box set, you get a fantastic book here. There is writings on each one of the films in this set, so it's another fantastic booklet from Indicator, who, like I mentioned, they do it the best. So that's the Colombia Horror set, which I think is fantastic, again, if you like older horror movies, if you like looking at the history of horror within Hollywood, and particularly from the B-movie perspective. I also think it's a great complement to some of the other Indicator box sets, like the Colombia Noir set, because there are some noir elements in quite a few of these films, and I think there is some crossover there. So if you've enjoyed those Colombia Noir sets, I would definitely say take a look at Colombia Horror. And I do wonder if there's going to be more volumes of this, because I had a great time with Volume 1. So hopefully we get a Volume 2. Now let's just quickly look at some of the September releases from Indicator. All of these are fantastic as well, particularly if you like classic Hollywood movies. The first one that I want to talk about is this one, When Tomorrow Comes. This is starring Irene Dunne and Charles Boyer. It's a fantastic romance story directed by John M. Stahl. This one is actually based on a story by James M. Cain, and I just had a great time watching this. Me and my wife watched it together, and we absolutely loved it. We are a big fan of Mr. Boyer in this house, so this was a great treat for us. And it looks great from the 2K restoration with a ton of special features, as you would expect from Indicator. I would highly recommend this if you are a fan of these two particular actors. You know, if you like Love Affair or History Was Made at Night, you know, other Charles Boyer pictures like that, this is absolutely one that belongs amongst them, and Indicator did a great job with this release. Next, we have the hilarious The Lady Is Willing, starring Marlene Dietrich, Fred McMurray, directed by Mitchell Lazen, who also made Remember the Night, which Indicator have also released, and it is fantastic. This one is about this actress, played by Dietrich, who finds this baby who is not with any parents, and she just takes the baby. Essentially, she has kidnapped this baby, and she wants to keep the baby for herself. But of course she can't, because at the time you can't keep a baby that's been abandoned unless you are married. And that's where Fred McMurray's character comes in. He plays the doctor who she has to kind of convince to marry her so that she can keep this baby. It's all very silly, but in such an entertaining way. And there are some fantastic scenes between Dietrich and McMurray. So I absolutely loved this film. It is great to get it on a Blu-ray from Indicator. And as always, there are tons of special features on here. Next, we have a fantastic Fritz Lang movie, You and Me, starring Sylvia Sidney and George Raft. This film is set in a department store where the manager, he is quite an optimist, and he gives jobs to ex-convicts in order to kind of bring them back into society and give them another chance at life. And two of the workers there are the characters played by Sylvia Sidney and George Raft. And they begin to get a relationship together between the two of them, although Sylvia Sidney's character has a particular secret that she has not revealed to George Raft's character. And when this secret is revealed, things start to unravel, and the George Raft character decides to go back to his old ways of crime and get involved with his old gang. This is a film that I don't think you would particularly put the label of film noir on it, but it is certainly kind of working towards the kind of quintessential film noir that we would get in years to follow. Particularly, you've got Fritz Lang, who I don't need to tell you how much of a genius director he was, both working in the German film industry and then moving over to Hollywood and working on film noir and all other sorts of films. Because he has made so many good films, it's one that I wouldn't really put at the upper echelons of what he's done. But this is better than most other directors' best film. So it's one that I would absolutely recommend, particularly going into Noirvember now. It's one that I think would be a great watch. And the last of the September releases is You'll Never Get Rich, starring Fred Astaire and Rita Hayworth. This is a story about this choreographer who has the hots for one of the dancers that he works with, but he ends up getting drafted. And while he has been drafted, he meets the boyfriend of the dancer, and that's where the conflict in this story ensues from. It's a film that I think fundamentally is let down by its plot, because the dance sequences with Fred Astaire and Rita Hayworth and the music by Cole Porter, they are incredible. So I think if you're going to pick up this film, you're going to really enjoy the dance numbers, and when there isn't a dance number, you're just going to be waiting for the next one to come along. I know that sounds a bit harsh on the film, but that's just kind of how I felt watching this one. But for those dance numbers, I think it is well worth having. And this Blu-ray is from a 4K restoration, so it does look absolutely stunning, and you get a bunch of special features in the limited edition to watch after you've seen the film. So that was just a quick look at the October and September releases for Indicator. They've done fantastic work yet again. If you have any further questions about these titles, please just leave a comment on this video and I will be happy to answer any questions. And of course, don't forget that the Indicator flash sale is on their website right now until next Monday, and there are some great deals to be had. So do go and check out all of them as well. If you enjoyed this video, please do stick around on the channel and watch the video that is on screen right now to get more reviews and recommendations from me. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.